It's 6:35. I will now call the meeting to order. We will do a roll call. Tammy? Counselor Milch?
Here.
Counselor Neese? Here. Counselor Tracy?
Present.
Counselor Reisner?
Here.
Counselor McMahon?
Here.
Counselor Mercero?
Present.
Mayor Stemple? Absent. Would everyone please rise and we'll do the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, are there any additions or corrections to the... Okay.
I do have three. Thank you, Counselor Neese. First of all, our new police officer does not have his uniform yet, so we're going to introduce him at the next City Council meeting. So we're going to remove that from tonight's agenda. On item number 7, I think on your dais there tonight you have an updated IGA in regards to right-of-way management services with the City of Milwaukee. They are just Scribner errors that we are correcting tonight, so there's nothing in substance that we'll be going over when we get to that agenda item. And then I'd like to add item number 10A, appointment to the Library Board Committee. And I believe you have an application in front of you that the Library Board met last week and vetted to appoint Libby Spencer to that. So those are the 3 additions I have.
All right. Thank you. All right. Do we have business from the audience?
Yes, we do. Greg Alexander.
Hello, Greg Alexander, Gladstone. Haven't gotten up here in a while, but I'd like to start with a comment to Matt. As last month he named me a chief petitioner on the recall, which there can only be one of, and I was not it. So I'll take exception to that like you did, thinking the article was referred to you. I also don't appreciate being called a surrogate because I support Tammy. We don't call your supporters names, especially from a council seat. A lot of positive things have happened since Mayor Stemple's been here, and she has high energy, and I do support her, so I'm going to keep supporting her. If supporters are surrogates, then I wonder if you are Steve Johnson's or Steve Johnson's is yours, aside from being the first signature on your form and you being one of the first ones on his. This is a small community, and rumor has it that you've been meeting with him on numerous occasions, and that he, in return, is meeting with Mr. Cutter, the person trying to develop the Olson wetlands. These are just from the, people from the community wanting to know. They say they're curious if this is Metro, for whom you work for, trying to further the Portland creep into our community. Some even question if it's ethical for you to collect a paycheck from Metro while governing our community. And even more ask where your loyalty lies, a paycheck from Metro for your family or a volunteer position for the city. And in the last meeting you also mentioned we don't need division, and I agree. However, a number of critics, your supporters, have written articles to divide this community and attack others they don't agree with on social media. And you yourself using that seat to lash out at citizens and call them names, not a good look. I'd also like to know how you connect with all these citizens when, according to the election signature sheets, you didn't collect any of the signatures on your own. Speaking of that, you said last meeting that you represent this community, and a neighbor of mine pointed out that you really only represent the 3 city councilors that conspired to put you there. And they were also 3 of the city councilors that chose to ignore the 5-to-1 vote for Frank Hernandez that the Citizens Advisory Board recommended for the person in that seat. I also question why Tom is running for mayor. Is it just in case he wins you may have be able to appoint someone else to sit in his seat without community involvement again? And he's a Steve Johnson supporter. Steve Johnson's a Tom supporter, and he was recalled, as you know. So that's the community speaking that you don't want to seem to listen to either anyway, but thought we were going forward instead of back. And then, you got your supporters also. They lash out at my mom for not having a business license. Bill, Tammy, that was all debunked. Your side sues me, takes me to court. Me, Bill, and Neil That was all dismissed and dropped. So, you know, I don't know if you guys just keep looking for stuff to throw at the wall to make it stick, and hopefully, you know, you think you're going to get some to stick, but we're doing things the right way, and we don't need that, you know? And so that's my 3 minutes right there. A vote for, I think, Matt or Tom is a vote for Steve Johnson.
Tammy, do we have, excuse
Yes.
me.
Frank
Please.
Hernandez.
Frank Hernandez, Gladstone. Recently, I had the honor of attending the Senior Center Golden Luncheon. I just wanted to be one of the people who complimented that organization and in that event, from the quality of the food to the decorations, the table, to the entertainment. It was obvious that a number of people put a lot of pride and passion into ensuring that that was an absolutely wonderful event. And I know that the Senior Foundation sponsored that, and I just think all the workers and everybody should be complimented to the very highest level. It was interesting. I thought 51, my wife and I have been married for 51 years. We were the youngest ones there, which was really enjoyable to speak with a lot of the other people who lived either in Gladstone or nearby areas who have participated in that. So again, I just wanted to make sure that I put one more compliment to. I know there are other people who've appreciated that event, but I just think you cannot state it enough how enjoyable they made that event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Very nice of you. Next.
Last one, Bill Osborne.
Hi, Bill Osborne, live here in Gladstone. Over the past several months, a few of you have used your official city council meeting time to attack citizens who are exercising their First Amendment right. Citizens who take their personal time to come before you and offer input and feedback on city issues. When we have concerns over violations of law and they are disregarded and called white noise, it discourages public input and really makes us question who you serve. I stand behind all my words, both spoken and written, including quotes in the newspaper. If any of you really have questions or want to know more, then contact me or send your own story to the newspaper. I find it frustrating that I even have to sacrifice some of my limited time to speak about this, but your misuse of your position for your own political benefit is unethical and unprofessional. I could go on, but that's where I'll lay it. Now on to more important news and topics that I'd rather be spending my time on, such as the solve cleanup we had. It was our most successful one in the 3 years I've been doing them. We had over 75 volunteers there. We filled the big dumpster there at Cross Park to capacity. And we had over a dozen folks from Coca-Cola that had sponsored the event. They came out, they provide refreshments, as well as help to pick up litter. We started a cigarette butt collecting separate, which they are now starting to recycle the cigarette butts. I'm not exactly sure what they are recycling them into. It's a new program. But we're collecting those separately, those who choose, and it's for the betterment of the environment, I'm told. Right now I'm done with all my scheduled cleanups for this summer. Next year, I want to take the momentum we gained this year, where we kept growing and growing, and make it bigger. I'd like to get some other parks involved. Ideally, I could find some people to help sponsor those. If not, I suppose I'll take them on myself. I've also had a chance to connect with many citizens over the last month. I just wanted to pass on some of what I've been hearing, the main concerns. Concerns about code changes, concerns about the streets and the conditions of them. Will the library be built this time, or is this just yet another hope that people have had in the past? It's been dashed. I'm hopeful that'll happen this time. And increasing fees and taxes affecting people's quality of life in Gladstone. A lot of people are hurting out there financially, and a lot of these increases, some of which I understand had to happen, are squeezing them pretty hard, and it's affecting their quality of life. So as I continue to talk with people, I will put together a list and I will pass that information along to you so you know what the people out there are talking about. Thank you.
Anyone else, Tammy?
No, that was last.
All right. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Approval of August 28th, 2018 work session, September the 11th, 2018 regular meeting, and September the 25th, 2018. Do I have a motion?
Councilor Neese, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items 1 through 6.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Correspondence, do we have any?
We have nothing, thank you.
Okay. And we're going to pass, because the new officer doesn't have his uniform yet, we'll move on to the presentation of the natural gas low carbon pathway and utility update.
Hi there, my name is Nina Carlson, and I'm with Northwest Natural, and I want to thank you, City Council and City staff, for inviting me to speak with you today. I'm going to go over very high level, pretty quickly. You feel free to stop me along the way if you have questions, and then when we get to the end, if you have basic utility questions, I'd be happy to answer anything like that. And you may ask, why is Northwest Natural sitting here talking about a low-carbon pathway? And basically, about 5 years ago, our company did a real deep review of our business plan, business model, and to look at for risk and areas that our ratepayers could be affected. And probably one of the biggest concerns for us as a company and for our ratepayers would be impending carbon legislation that we expect to see in the next, we didn't necessarily know what session it would come out of, but we knew that that was an issue in addition to climate change. And in advance of any legislation, and as a proactive thing because we feel it's the right thing to do, we put together what we call our low carbon pathway. And the reason I'm sharing that with you today is, in fact, there will be carbon legislation in Salem this year. You may get questions from your state legislators, from your citizens, and we want you to know what we are doing as your natural gas utility in advance of any of this to protect our ratepayers and to gather feedback and work with our stakeholder partners going forward, because we're kind of all in this together. So with that, I'll kick us off. We in Northwest Natural believe that climate change is real and that it requires collective action of all of us, and that's kind of why I'm here. We also do believe, as your natural gas utility, that we are uniquely situated to help address carbon and climate change, and we have 3 basic objectives. Number 1 is a long-term goal of deep decarbonization. Basically, that means lessen carbon intensity of our product. But the key thing is that it leaves no one behind. It encompasses all of our ratepayers and all of our citizens and communities. Number 2, that we take near-term actions that leverage our infrastructure that we have in the ground and our ability to bring technology to the forefront and to be able to save carbon. And number 3, lead the way on natural gas innovations, both in equipment and in the whole value stream from the wellhead to the burner tip. So if you take nothing more away from this whole presentation than this one slide, I will feel like I've done my job. What this is showing Oregon's greenhouse gas emissions. You can see by the pie chart, transportation contributes to the largest, 36%, with electricity generation at 30%, other is 22%, and our actual natural gas customer use is 8%, with our residential use being only 5%. And for that 5% of the greenhouse gas emissions that our natural gas contributes to the atmosphere, we serve 74% of the residential heating in our service territory. That's 740,000 customers, ranging all the way from Astoria down the coast to Coos Bay, a little bit in Clark County, and then all the way down the valley to Eugene and out to the Dalles. And on that really cold morning when there's not a lot of renewables available, the sun isn't shining, the wind isn't blowing, it's cold, we provide up to 90% of your energy needs. So that's fairly good bang for your buck, 5% of the greenhouse gas emissions for 74% of the heat generated. But that's not good enough. And our goal basically would be a 30% carbon savings by 2035 from a 2015 baseline. And that is basically done with 3 different buckets of actions. First of all, I talked about the carbon intensity of our product. What that basically means is through our operations doing things like putting renewable natural gas on our pipeline, making sure that the places that we buy from are using best practices in extraction, so there is no leakage or loss in the extraction of the gas, working with different technologies such as power to gas, and a couple of these I'll go into in just a little bit more detail going forward. Additionally, with our customers, a lot of folks don't really realize that we are what is known as a decoupled utility, meaning that we do not make money from the gas that we sell. That's a pass-through. We make money from the infrastructure, return on our infrastructure in the ground. So the good thing about that is it really incentivizes us to work with our customers to, while they use their product, make sure they use as little of it as they can. And we do that through energy efficiency. We work with the Energy Trust of Oregon and Climate Trust. We have a smart energy program, which I'll touch upon in a minute. We also work every day with our home builders and heating, ventilation, air conditioning contractors to make sure that they're aware of the newest technology and that they're able to use it and address customer need efficiently and affordably. And the third way is working on transportation to help replace some of the dirtier fuels for return to base vehicles such as dump trucks or garbage trucks, and maybe move them over to what we call CNG, or compressed natural gas. So we talked about our product just a minute ago, and these are a couple things that we are very excited about, one of which is currently in place, one of which we're working forward to bring more into use. Renewable natural gas, or what we call RNG, that basically is the methane that is produced from the degradation of carbon-based solids, things like your dairy, landfills, dairies, and waste treatment plants. We're working with City of Portland to capture the renewable natural gas that typically would be flared. The methane would be flared into the atmosphere. They were able to put in clean equipment that will capture that methane, clean it, and either use it at their plant or to fuel vehicles, or sell it back to us as renewable natural gas. Additionally, we're working with a utility in a different region to bring power to gas to the market. And what that basically is there's a lot of times where there's excess renewable energy generated. The sun is shining, the wind is blowing, lots of electricity is being generated. But with battery storage, it's just really, the technology is not there. It's expensive, it's inefficient, not ready for prime time. But with power to gas, what you basically do is you take that extra electricity, you treat it with hydrolysis, and you can pull those hydrogen molecules out. We can actually store up to 15% hydrogen on our pipe, which can be pulled off at a later date to be used, and it doesn't affect the quality of the methane that we are currently storing. So we would like people to kind of think about our infrastructure as having various uses, and they've already paid for it, so we might as well keep maintaining it and use it to its utmost ability. And additionally, Northwest Natural is very proud of our system. Basically, we want people to understand it is probably one of the tightest systems in the nation. We were one of the first utilities to replace every mile of pipe that was bare steel with either coated steel or poly. So it is one of the tightest, and we are working every day with the places that we purchase our natural gas from to make sure that they are using best practices so there are no leaks. And I talked a little bit about our customers. Two of the things that I really want to focus on here is that we really work hard with our builders and HVAC folks to make sure that they realize that natural gas is consistent with what we call a net zero energy home. We play really well with solar, where you're using solar during the times it's available and your natural gas is as a backup. And one other thing that if I can get one person to join this will make me feel pretty like we're having some success. You're probably familiar with PG's Clean Energy Program, where people can buy renewable electricity. Well, we have what we like to think of as a cousin program to that, which is Smart Energy. And basically you pay a little surplus on your bill, $5 to $6 a month. That money is pooled and is administered by Climate Trust, where they go ahead and they find places where they can either help sequester carbon or help that dairy farmer put the equipment to be able to capture the methane from his cow tanks, or do different products to make sure that those greenhouse gases aren't getting into the atmosphere. And lastly, transportation, and this is where we look to you guys as community leaders and policymakers to really encourage the waste haulers, the different return to base vehicles in your jurisdiction to consider compressed natural gas for their trucks, because it's got a dual benefit of not only less greenhouse gas emissions, I think about, 20% better than the cleanest biodiesel, and additionally it can contribute to about 80% less NOx emissions to the atmosphere, which is a double win. And this is basically, for more information, we ask you to go to our Less We Can campaign. This is talking about all the different details and the different groups that we are partnering with to help make sure that our customers across our region are using less and making sure that we are really reducing those greenhouse gases. So with that, I'm pretty much finished, and I'd take any questions you have.
Anyone have any questions?
I have a comment. So, I worked pretty closely with Chris Galati on trying to launch the compressed natural gas vehicle fuel initiatives in the region. And you're correct. A lot of the waste haulers would like to switch over, but it's and I hate to use the chicken and the egg conundrum. One of the things, though, that we're finding out, I think I would hope that your company's still pushing forward with this. One of my jobs at Metro was to basically put this package together for the waste haulers, because I work in the solid waste division of Metro. Metro does a lot of things. So I would continue to encourage you to come to the cities and talk to the cities about figuring out how to basically put these systems, these fueling stations in place. We lost the opportunity at Metro. We'll probably find it again, but I think it's something that the cities could work in collaboration with the hauling companies and be able to kind of start this and initiate it. As you know, Wilsonville Republic Services has a large station there. So I do encourage you to continue to kind of push us as counselors and citizens of the cities, because I think that there's a lot of benefit for both the city fleets as well, obviously, as well as the waste hauler fleets. So.
And we really are trying. We have a new tariff that basically allows us to kind of help, not incentivize, but kind of
Schedule H tariff. Yeah. In fact, I testified at the Public Utility Commission to get that tariff passed. 5-6 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the problem, though, I think, is initiating it, getting the council members and folks who are some of the policymakers in cities to understand the real value there, because with the advent of, as you were pointing out, the renewable natural gas, nominated pipeline gas, we can really make some inroads. The problem is always going to be flipping that switch and getting the station built. So.
Yeah, we will be advancing a bill on the legislature this year around some different things. I would say we're approaching this from a marketing, a government affairs, and a community affairs, trying to get stakeholders in the environmental justice community to be a little bit more knowledgeable or understand the options that are out there, because while PG&E has been really good talking about their electrification plans for about the last 10 years, we've been doing a good job providing you gas as a utility, but a terrible job visioning and telling our story about the options and the things that we can provide going forward. So we're working on it. We're trying to be very diligent about it. This is, I think, my 27th presentation to a jurisdiction. So I appreciate your attention and your pushing for that. That is the kind of the support of our jurisdictions is really what we need with the legislators in Salem and with the companies in your cities.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is the waste haulers really, the majority of them want it. It's just getting the infrastructure in place so that they can fuel the trucks. And that's been the challenge.
With VW settlement money and DEQ clean air money, we're trying to pull all the levers, but there's a lot of hands out there, and there's a lot of we're working on it, I promise, every day.
I'm sure. Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.
You're welcome. Next, we have Jerry Craig, Chaplain Jerry Craig, and he's going to do a presentation on Agent Orange. Mr. Craig, come forward.
Good evening. Well, I hope you can hear me. Anyway, I started this out not only on Agent Orange, and I'll discuss some of that stuff, but the key here is that I've been giving presentations since 2011 to anybody that listen, Rotaries, Chambers. I think some of you may have been in some of those meetings, from Oregon City Gladstone and Milwaukee, and any guest presentations I've been asked to go south and do in Albany and that stuff. Agent Orange, because the key here is Agent Orange, everybody figures that Bing's Vietnam's over, there's not an issue. The issue is that those servicemen who were there and through 62 through 75 were coated in all kinds of toxins, which we call the old yellow mud. This can last up to 4 generations. So if you figure that we pull out in 75 and you add up generations using the definitions, whether you go online or whatever the case may be, at 20 to 25 years, the basics here is that this could affect families till 2080. But the other issue is, like all this was collected in Alabama, every military post in the United States had planes coming in or shipments going there, going overseas. So whatever those servicemen did from that point out, even cleaning it up, that adds on to families' effects. I put some other stuff in here for your edification, because in here I've put what Agent Orange does to families, what Anniston, Alabama, which is around Fort McClellan, what they're going through, toxic stuff at Camp Lejeune from 53 to 75. So those things all affect this as veterans who are now retired, moving on, and all that has all the same effects that Agent Orange has for their families. So you're talking up to 12 million servicemen, whether they be all services. And we in Gladstone, I lived in Milwaukee for 25 years. I've lived here for 20. Been deployed out of this city several times. So I acquired this because some friends of mine were going nationwide to present this program. This packet was that high for everybody who went to these VA centers and that kind of stuff, and they are now reduced down to what you see here, only because all the things have passed and all the issues are down to how do we get family members to the VA to be helped. If you look in here on page 4, we have 12 cancers you can acquire, or 38 cancers, and 12 different other issues. Parkinson's disease, for example. The birth defects and that stuff are on page 5. These things are happening today. As a chaplain, and for those people that have known me, I get calls every week from families who their husband, grandfather, father have died, and their children now have cancer, diabetes. The first thing I ask them is, in your past, in your families, have you ever had any of this known, or know that they haven't had this? Because that's the first thing the VA asks. And generally the question is no. The social services over here in Clackamas County have now got as of 6 months ago, acquired a veteran service officer strictly to start doing what I've been doing for 4 years. Studying Agent Orange, getting help, handling issues so they can work with the VA. For those who understand what the VA does, the VA is overwhelmed with things of today. There's no doctors, there's no firemen, police, military, higher or otherwise, that were in Vietnam. I went to my own doctor, for example, with Northwest Primary Care, and he asked me one day, he says, were you in Vietnam? And I says, yeah. He says, well, I hear there's some issues there. So I tried to explain to him, I don't know what was on my dime or not, but we spent considerable time discussing that. So he asked if we could bring some books over, and I went to Northwest Primary Care, Legacy, Providence, most of the hospitals around here, and gave them these books saying, okay, if you need more, let me know. I'll be more than happy to give you presentations. Because what's happened is from the original start, the only people that were getting this training was at VA centers or a clinic. And most of those are Central City. So like people in Eastern Oregon or down south or whatever, they never got those classes. This class, I can make it 16 hours if I have to. But the key here, as I always say, is because of the fourth generation aspect. People need to start registering their families, which is on page 8. Registry with a DD-214 if your family members passed and whatever, and go through the process and be very patient. Because claims, I just got a call from a family yesterday that their family member was in Iraq and his claim just got approved. That was 10 years ago, and he passed a year ago. So they're going to figure out what to do with that. But the aspect is, just think of all the servicemen that are going through that. So this book, if you had time to study it later, I know that you just got this, there's issues there on how to file, how to appeal, that kind of stuff. And I've always tell people that you've got to be patient. You don't go to the VA and get help right away, unless you get there at 8 o'clock, and can get an appointment. And in the process, we've been very successful. Not only us, the Legion, VFWs, the Independent Veterans Group. I'm always asked, well, how many Vietnam veterans are around here? Well, I just discovered here last week, or last Friday, there's a group that meets over here at the River Shores. They're pilots, 1st Cav, 25th Infantry, all that, but they're Vietnam veterans, and they've been meeting over here for a year as a collective. They've actually moved out of the Legions and the VFWs because they want to interact in other ways. That's good, but they're sticking together. I don't know, my passion for this is, as a chaplain, is when I became a chaplain, everybody asked me, well, how come you don't have a church? How come you don't have some place that everybody goes to like a normal minister? And I said, well, when I was in combat arms for 38 years, had a calling to become a minister, and the Episcopal Church thought that was very good, but I told them when I graduated, my church is above the sky, just as Jesus Christ did as he walked through. He didn't have a church. And it's worked out to my benefit in respect that people recognize that I'm here to help veterans. With that, I joined the Veterans Advisory Group in Social Services. With that, I'm starting to help the new Veterans Village. So everything expands, and I'm only trying to help. So because I've been to all the Rotaries and Chambers and business associations, I was told by several, to include Steve Litz and that kind of stuff from Baskin-Robbins, that I should come and at least explain what's going on here and give you some information, because no matter what you do, whether you have somebody that you're hiring, say for the new project, or a new maintenance guy, or whatever, my contention is with the Rotary, as I'm always asked about, why should I hire a person with PSTD? It gets down to there's other effects that have no impact on this person to do their job. If they're on medicine, that's fine. But the key is, it's hard for people to understand that when they hear all the negatives. So the issue is, my issue is, I've now started to go actually to the church groups, like all of Gladstone. Well, I found the best way is to go to their alliance, which means all the churches go to a group meeting and that kind of stuff. And from there, you branch out. I was even accused at one time from one minister that he thought I was trying to steal his flock. I says, I have no interest in stealing anybody. I'm here to help the veterans. So, it's what I've tried to do. I took them up on it. I'm here. The other side of this house, part of having Agent Orange, depending on what you get, I've lost 4 friends, 2 to cancer, 2 to diabetes, because the diabetes just came on like that, and a couple of them lost their legs right away, and then they passed. So it depends on the time, your body, your genealogy, all that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing is, whether social services, VA, or general, because I'm now on the suicide committees that are being formed, other than homeless. But the thing is, if most of these people have Agent Orange, they don't know it, or they presumptive care that they can't get any care, that's where some of these suicides come from. Basically because my honor guard at Milwaukee, Post 180, tends to the Willamette National Cemetery and any place within this area from Albany to Longview, is on the 4th Thursday of the month. For those that don't know, they have a separate ceremony, full military honors for those that have been shipped in from the Northwest to be buried at Willamette National, and it's to give them full military honors that they did not have, whatever funeral home or whether they had a family or not. And what I've recognized over the last 4 years as where the World War II veterans were the key for those that are passing, Vietnam veterans now equal or surpass those people on the list. So it's been a critical thing. Those that have been veterans or in service or been associated with this in some way understand all that. But my key has been to try to track, despite medical records and privacy and all that, is who has these issues. Or whether I go to a church or whether I go to another group and I explain all this, I'm not there to insinuate wrong or give anybody negatives or whatever. The negatives are there. It's the help and how to get it. And that's what I'm there for, to help. In the suicide range, I mean, I can tell you at least 10 cases I've had in the last 2 years where families have called me. I've done the service, met with the families, found out the reasons. We had our first designated casualty of a Marine who was designated as being at Camp Lejeune, and the issue of his passing was directed directly to the toxic water that was there. Now, how they did that, I don't know, but it's right there on his death certificate.
And Jerry, we really appreciate you coming and sharing and making us all aware, because I know Agent Orange is a real issue for a lot of them.
I appreciate your time.
And we thank you for what you've given to the veterans and how much you care. Yes?
So thank you for your service, first. Do you want us to, are you looking for some outreach here? Is that...
Well, I'm trying to make everybody aware, trying to be simple, that this is occurring. This needs to be addressed. Like I said, I've been to the Rotaries. I've had a couple of business associations that the leader didn't really feel that had anything to do with their group.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm working with the churches, I want to make sure that they have the information, whether they want to do it like they do a Bible study class or something, come in and talk to the veterans and the families. It's working to a certain point.
Or hosting an open house of some sort where you can disseminate some information. Would that work?
That would be great.
So
November 11th, I'm actually going up to the Nazarene Church in Oregon City and putting out a table and starting there and putting out information. They've been the first ones to really say within the church groups that, we're going to have a veterans deal on November 11th. Why don't you come and give anything out.
Right.
I'm not sure, to answer your question, just like I've had things at the post, and you get a few, you don't get a large group, but then I take what I can get. And I've got several other folks that have tried to help pass out literature and that kind of stuff, because the key is this book right here. The families that are affected are very passionate. My issue is, once I do that with certain groups, I don't get any feedback from them saying they either pushed it on forward, addressed it, handed out the pamphlets or whatever.
I'd be willing to give you my contact information, and maybe we could talk about it a little bit more. I'd have some historical context about Agent Orange and its relationship to the region. It was manufactured. I think there was 2 spots in America. Rome Palanque down on right off of Front Avenue was one of the manufacturing spots. So I'd be happy to work directly with you and maybe help you find some avenues out.
Appreciate that. But I was going to point out, even though my time's probably expired.
It is.
You're pushing it. Right?
I'm trying to be nice.
See this document right here?
Yeah.
This comes out and it tells you that they started testing this in July of '44.
Yeah.
In about every state in the South. And then all the ships and stuff and whatever, we're still fighting with the, if you haven't seen it, the Brown Navy, getting them approved. I have to say this, as a combat arms, as Special Forces, we were coming off submarines, and when we came back in from our mission, we were covered in that stuff. So you can't tell me that the Navy boys didn't have some of that on them.
Sure.
I really thank you for your time. Hope that helps. I know you got a lot on your plate, but people ask, I'm here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to number 7, right-of-way management service and intergovernmental agreement, IGA, with the City of Milwaukee. Jackie, would you like to?
Thank you. City Council, I'll introduce to you, this is Reba Crocker. She is with the City of Milwaukee. And what we're asking you to approve tonight is an agreement with our neighboring cities to share professional services for the right-of-way management. I think, as it's stated in my staff report, back in 2016, the city implemented a right-of-way ordinance, and that was an alternative to negotiating franchise agreements with each utility that the city adopted. And at the time that we did that, we had the benefit of using a staff person from Oregon City to manage our rights-of-way. The last year, that staff person was not available, and Public Works Director Jim Wynot and I have attempted to proactively try to make sure that our utilities that are in our rights-of-way are either registered or have a valid license. We do set up quarterly billing with ongoing customers that we know are in the rights-of-way, but the piece that we've been missing is not collecting revenue that we could be, because we don't have somebody that can proactively go after that. So I'm just going to have Reba talk just a little bit about what she's going to be providing for the city, and then if you have any questions before we approve the IGA, we can answer that.
Hi, I am Reba with the City of Milwaukee, and the IGA is designed to allow me to work for the City of Gladstone for a maximum of 10 hours a week underneath Jackie's direction. I briefly just went through some of your financials. I see that you have about 12 telecoms that are paying you for rights-of-way.
Right.
And your ordinance has been in effect since 16. In Milwaukee, I put the ordinance in effect in 2017. And I have, since that date, as of today, issued 43 rail licenses, and I have 65 telecoms paying the City of Milwaukee for the use of the rights-of-way. There are still many, 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 many providers out there using the right-of-way, and they are not fairly compensating the public for that use. It's a full-time job to chase them down, basically. So with what I hope to do is at least increase your telecoms by 3 times that are paying you within the first year. If I work pretty closely with Oregon City as well, with Lance, who was there before, and now with Dante, who is there doing my position there. If these providers are in Oregon City and they're in Milwaukee, they're in Gladstone. So we've got a pretty good handle on right now as to who's in there. There's still other providers that pop up all the time. There's new telecoms that the big companies, they create these little companies to do business in your city, and they don't tell you about it. They're not getting their business registrations. They're not compensating you for the use of the rights of way. So I'm just going to go after them and make them pay the public for using the right of way.
Good.
What's a telecom? Seems like there's so many. All I know is Quest and
Comcast.
And my cable is who I have the phone through.
Well, cable's a different, wireline cable is a very different than telecom. Even though Comcast is providing wireless services, that's classified as a telecom service, and so is the internet. Cable's just a different category. Telecom is going to be your voice, data, anything that goes over the air, cell phone, landline, wireless providers are a big one. They're using your rights of way, even though wireless is not really wireless. They're attaching to a tower, and a wireless signal is always and forever looking for fiber somewhere, and it's attaching to fiber somewhere. So if they are not providing service in your city, but they're providing it in Oregon City, that signal is hitting a fiber somewhere or a line somewhere and traveling through your city, through Milwaukee to Portland to interconnect. That's the only way their system will work. So I'm sorry, I'm rambling too. A telecom is voice data, any signal that travels through your rights of way.
Can you name some? Is there anybody that I would even know? Or
AT&T, Comcast, Verizon, Sprint, Metro PCS.
That many different ones out there of those, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
Boost Mobile, T-Mobile, a bunch of them come up all the time. There's also energy providers, resellers that are in your right of way. I believe you have one. I think Calpine is compensating you right now, but there's other providers like that resell energy. I know you have CBX, Clackamas Fiber. Anyway, I know you do like Three Waters, I think, Three Water
Correct.
companies.
Yeah.
Your wireline cable is basically going to be Comcast. They're the only wireline. Your main provider here, your ILEC, is CenturyLink. They have most of your lines. They're the provider of last resort. So most companies are riding on CenturyLink's lines. So they're not compensating you, and they should be. They're using the right of way. And if I do ramble and don't answer your question, please ask me again.
Well, that's good.
I get a little excited about what I do. I love what I do.
So when you say you're going after right-of-way fees, where's the money come from?
It's a usage fee that you assess to the company itself. It's a cost of doing business, just like a business registration or anything.
Is it a cost of doing business, or is it pass-through fee?
They have the right to pass it through. They do not have to, but they have the right.
All right, so we have some citizens that are really concerned about or capitalizing on the asset in the form of a pass-through fee. So you can see the conundrum there.
I can.
What's your suggestion, and does the PUC allow all of these providers to pass this fee through, or some of them who are piggybacking on other systems, are they basically having to just deal with it as a cost of business? They can raise their prices based on market.
The FCC is what allows them to pass it through.
So it's FCC?
Yes.
So there's no local state governance over any of their right-of-way fees?
That allows them to pass it through.
Question.
Yeah,
okay.
that allows them to pass it through. That's an FCC regulation.
Okay.
Your ordinance does assess it on them, even though they're not paying it. So you're kind of creating an uneven playing field if you're assessing it to one and not the other. You're allowing one an advantage.
In general, right.
Right. So you need to apply it evenly across the board.
I mean, it's not going to come out of the bottom line. It's going to come out of the consumer, their pocket.
It could, yes.
Okay.
And I just also wanted to make clear that back, you guys approved a resolution that allowed us to use 1.7% of the revenue we collect for the administrative side of this. So that's why we have budgeted the 10 hours per week. And when our interim finance director is not here, then Reba will be using that office space for that period of time.
I remember us having a discussion.
But we've already agreed to do this,
Yes.
basically, through Oregon City.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just lost the staff person, and we're fortunate that our other neighboring city has the capacity to allow us to use their staff for the service.
Okay, so it's nothing new, we're just
Correct.
changing.
Because we passed this before, because
This-
we went through it.
Was the same rate structure in place, the 5 hours of normal time?
Actually,
time, 5 hours of overtime.
Counselor Reisner asked earlier, and I don't want to say Reva's cheaper, but she is cheaper than what we were paying Oregon City.
I just want to work for you more.
Thank you for that.
I think Oregon, or,
Reba.
yeah, I was gonna say, Milwaukee,
Well,
agreed to the amount.
Well, we want to do what's right for everybody, and Milwaukee has a vested interest in Gladstone, just as it does all the other cities. I am president of OATO, and I help a lot of other cities with their codes, because we have a vested interest in making sure everybody's treated fairly. I was just in a meeting with one of the bigger telecoms, and they actually appreciate the licensing code that you have, Milwaukee has. I'm a little possessive. Oregon City have, because it's easier for them. It's all equal. It's not varying franchises and little tweaks with every city. They're all the same. It makes it easier on them as well.
Great. That's wonderful. Any further questions?
I don't have
Discussion?
anything. No.
Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to approve the IGA between the cities of Gladstone and Milwaukee to provide road management services to Gladstone.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Reva.
Okay. We will move on to resolution number 8, 1149, City Administrator Evaluation. Nancy McDonald?
Good evening again, councilors. Resolution 1149 is the second public act regarding the city administrator's evaluation. This process began on September the 11th when I came before you with Resolution 1145, outlining the process and including the form to be adopted for the evaluation of the city administrator. Since that time, there have been various actions that have taken place. The city administrator produced a letter of achievements and accomplishments in her last 1 year of employment. All of the city administrator's direct reports, there were 12 of them. Some of them are employed by the city of Gladstone, others are on a contract basis through Clackamas County for the services that they provide in our library and in our planning, and then a contract employee from a financial agency acting as our interim finance director. All 12 of the direct reports submitted their documentation. Those two pieces of documents were forwarded to the City Council along with their evaluation form to be used for this process. You, in turn, all 7 of the Council, completed their forms, and as of 1 o'clock this afternoon, they were all compiled and presented to you in executive session at 5:30 this evening. Resolution 1149 is attached to the process document that was used and discussed by the council. Unfortunately, because of running short on time, we did not get to have the discussion with the city administrator, so we'll have to do that in public forum. And since that action has not happened, if you look at section 2 of the resolution, it indicates that there may be a change in the employment agreement between the city of Gladstone and the city administrator, and that I will prepare modifications to the employment agreement and have that document for approval at the November 13th meeting. That meeting is also set up as an executive session. in which we will discuss the city's overall classification and compensation system. I will include documentation on the city administrator in there, and at that time, follow your direction if there are any modifications to her contract. What you're looking tonight was the last-minute document that was included in the packet, and I'm seeking your approval on that.
We will move forward with the contract. David, do we have to make a motion, or?
So, I think tonight, and Nancy, you tell me if you have a different view of this. As Nancy said, since you haven't really had a chance to consider whether there would be an adjustment in Ms. Betts's compensation, it would seem to me that if you adopt Resolution 1149, you would be taking Section 2 out.
Making modifications to it.
Or make modifications to it, correct. But tonight, the contract that you have with the city administrator runs through December of 2019. So there's not any, you don't have to do anything tonight, and the contract continues in place as it is. So there's no need to renew it. It exists until 2019 unless one party terminates it before then. Really what you're doing tonight is just sort of acknowledging the fact that you've had the review, that you've compiled the individual review from each counselor, and I guess I would invite, if you have any comments to share with Jackie about future goals, impressions on her work performance, that would certainly be appropriate. But there's not a need to formally say we're going to extend the contract, because it's in place until 2019.
Yes.
Can we clarify that Human Resource Director is going to be embarking on a class comp study, and that's part of our decision with regard to compensation packages?
Yes.
I just think that should be on the record.
Any objections to that? Anybody else have a statement? Okay. Then we'll move forward with her contract. With once you've compiled.
So my understanding is that you're approving the evaluation document that you prepared and discussed in executive session.
Yes.
That I will gather information and present it along with all of the other class and comp information on November the 13th. And at that time, you may or may not direct me to make adjustments to the city administrator's contract.
Correct. That's my understanding. Yes, Councilor Mills?
Should I make a motion then? I move the adoption of Resolution 1149, adopting the results of the City Council's evaluation of the City Administrator's job performance and directing employment contract modifications, with the adjustment to Section 2 to be made by the Interim Human Resources Director for language appropriate to the circumstances of tonight's evaluation, and with the addition of the evaluation done by the City Council members as added on as Exhibit A to the record.
I second that.
We don't need
Let me just make, I think I should make one recommendation here. Since Section 2 is very specific language about directing the city's human resources director to go and make a change to the contract. I think what we've talked about tonight, for the record, is that she's going to come back at your next meeting.
November 13th.
Correct. At your November 13th meeting, with a study that would include not simply a sort of a comp study for the city administrator, but also other employees in the city. And you would make a decision at that point whether you want to adjust Ms. Betts' contract for compensation purposes.
Correct.
My recommendation would be to make this, I think, a little cleaner and easier, is to adopt Resolution 1149, but take Section 2 out for right now, because that's the part that I think makes it a little confusing. It has very specific language about your intent to do something with her contract that I don't think you've reached that decision yet.
Correct. We haven't.
And it's not that you're not going to reach that decision, it's just you haven't gotten the information yet in order to be able to make that decision.
Correct.
So if I may, I would recommend perhaps a revised motion that would consider the adoption of a Resolution 1149 and the removal of Section 2. And I might go so far as to say in the title also removing and directing employment contract modifications.
All right.
Because I don't think you're there tonight unless I'm hearing something otherwise.
No, we're not there. That's true.
All right, I'm happy to revise my motion to that, to remove reference to the redirecting the contract modifications, since, you know, we'll wait until we actually do that in order to act on that.
Right.
And to remove Section 2, which references that.
Second, amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries.
Mayor?
Yes.
I think it's
Not
important
mayor.
to say, because we talked a lot of technical language and other things, it's probably important for the public to know, the result of this process, to my mind, was a very positive evaluation of City Administrator Betts' performance. I want you all to be aware of that, not to go away thinking that we're hiding something from you. We just ran out of time to give the kind of feedback to her that we wish we could have done. But the comments that we made as a city council will be part of the public record, and everyone will be able to see, you know, the results of the evaluation that we did. And City Administrator Betts will also be able to see the comments made by her department staff department heads and direct report personnel to know, you know, the strong feelings that they have about the work she's done as well.
Yes.
I'm going to second Councilor Milch, and I add that City Administrator Betts has been faced with a lot of challenges, and quite frankly, some of them not really normal, to use the air quotes, for cities conducting business. I appreciate your veracity in the way that you've approached these issues, and I was heartened by what I observed with regards to the evaluation, so I think we're still going in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll move forward to number 9, Clackamas County Vehicle Registration Fee.
Okay, I'll have Public Works Director Jim Wynot come up.
Good evening, Council. Clackamas County contacted us here a month or so ago, and I believe maybe even some of the councilors, I believe the mayor for sure, has been contacted about supporting Clackamas County in their endeavor. What they're considering is adding a vehicle registration fee, and is looking for all the city's support within Clackamas County. Some of the highlights are included in your packet. Under Attachment A is kind of an outline of the dollars and what they're anticipating if this was collected. What they're looking to do is add a $30 per year registration on vehicles. What that would work out to in Clackamas County is approximately $11.2 million countywide, with 40% of that going to all the cities based on population, and the county would receive 50%, leaving 10% that would go to a county strategic investment fund, which would be for other projects that would be joint with cities or whatever stuff that comes up, you know, and it would all be transportation related. What does this mean for Gladstone? As you can see in the numbers there, they would anticipate that Gladstone would receive about $235,000 a year if this were to go through. And it of course would be dedicated toward transportation, street maintenance, and what have you. What would the city do with that? It would be a recommendation of staff that obviously we put that into the street fund, and we would use that for potholes, traffic signs, street markings, paving, and such like that, preventative and proactive maintenance. It sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not. You know, that would completely reconstruct a couple blocks, or maybe, depending on how bad it is. But maintenance is where we really need to focus right now in protecting what can be protected within the city streets. So that's where we've been focusing now, and that's what I would anticipate doing unless directions otherwise.
And I also want to add that we were asked by Clackamas County to put this on our agenda, so it's not a staff-driven request to the elected officials. And really fundamentally what you're deciding is, are you supporting the county commissioners to implement this fee themselves, or would you rather they go to a vote of the people? And that's what the letter of endorsement is asking for. So we thought it'd be best if we prepare the staff report and at least tell you what we would do with the revenue if it was implemented. So that's really your decision for this evening. You could remain silent and not support it to the county commissioners, or you could modify the letter stating that you would like the voters to weigh in on that instead. So.
We have discussion? Comments?
Question, so what's the current vehicle registration fee that we pay? Would be, since we don't have a county one, we pay a state, correct?
Right, they're looking to increase, I don't know what the exact dollar amount is for registering a vehicle. I think it's like $129 or something.
Yeah, I think about 112 is the bill I just got the other day.
So they're looking at adding to that, and that would go into the county's, into the spreadsheet here and show, and then it would be divided up amongst the cities and the county.
And we currently get money from the state's registration fee,
Yes.
don't we?
I don't know about the registration, exactly how that's split up, but possibly, and more so probably gas tax and such.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's $300,000-400,000 a year, something like that? Do you remember?
I don't.
And no.
I believe this is the same approach that the county used last year to propose that we approve it, along with other cities. And I'm not so much sure I'm so much in favor of doing that again myself.
Yes, Councilman.
Do we know what the count is? Who's voted it in and who hasn't?
No, we do not know yet. I know Chair Bernard had sent this to the mayor asking for the city council to consider it, and that was about 3 weeks ago that we received that. But I do not know if other cities are endorsing it or not.
Any further discussion?
Well, and just for clarification, we have a letter here dated September 19th on one side and dated September 24th on the other side, but I'm assuming those dates were just put in by a word processing program. That letter has not been sent or does not reflect any action that's been taken.
No, I
it's
think
just a draft.
it would take a consensus of the council before we would send this on if you wanted us to.
Yeah, the county supplied a template, and we added what we put in the city of Gladstone and some stuff like that to make it ours if it was approved. But this is just a draft. It can be changed or thrown in the garbage, whatever you guys decide to do with it. But it was our attempt to modify their directive from us.
You described the amount of money as something that would enable us to completely reconstruct a couple of blocks of road, and then you mentioned maintenance. I assume that for a lot of citizens, the idea of maintenance is fixing potholes, not reconstructing an entire road,
right,
but repairing the things that affect the drivability of that road. How far would the money go in terms of what we normally spend on that kind of maintenance for our own roads?
I don't know how to quantify that as far as saying we can slurry seal 5 miles or anything like that, but it would just add to, there's a lot to our street maintenance. It includes signs and striping and, signal maintenance, and, you've just seen recently some crack sealing that went on. We just did a whole bunch of streets around town, and that's in preparation for doing some slurry seal next year. We're going to slurry seal those same streets. And basically our model right now is to protect what can be, or save what can be saved. We do have some streets in worse condition, but those are beyond lipstick what I like to say. Putting crack sealing and slurry seal on those streets is a waste of money. Those need to be reconstructed. But we do have some streets in town that are worth saving. You spend a little bit now and you're going to get another 15, 20 years at them. So that's where we're at. So we would add to that, is what I would envision, until we get to a point to where now we can start reconstructing some of these streets. So I don't know how to put a number to it. I mean, there's just so many different ways it can go where the needs are. So, yeah.
And also on top of the registration fee, we got the DEQ fee that
56, or is it up now higher than 56?
I don't know. I got a new car this year, so I haven't had to go for a couple of years. So that's why I'm asking, because it's. I mean, I remember when Dave Hunt, as our representative, was the Speaker of the House, pushed through doubling it back. Gosh, what, 10 years ago? Maybe it was
like that.
10 or 12 years ago. The vehicle registration fee, which bumped it up to close to $100, and it's gone up some since then. So I'm with Councilor Mercereau in that for the I think the scheme of things, a couple $100,000 isn't going to fix a bunch of enough potholes to make it worthwhile, where our citizens are having to come up with extra money on top of what what they're already paying.
I think it should go to the voters. They should have a say. I would say.
Right.
Yeah, that's where because I'm not in favor.
I'd be in favor of it. Bill Osborne was pretty clear that he's well aware that we need to spend money on streets and stuff, and that doesn't just come from the fairy godmother anymore. You got to pay for it somewhere. The state should have raised the gas tax years ago when they had the opportunity. Gas at $2.30 a gallon, they should have raised the tax to 20 or 30 cents a gallon to compensate for that. So I would be for doing this. You look at what Multnomah County does, Washington County, they are at least getting if you're using the streets, you're paying for them, and right now we're not paying as much. So I would be for it. And that's why they elected me, was to make some decisions. So kicking it to the voters sometimes I don't agree with. But
any other discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I think the
Councilor
significant thing is to look at the various sources of revenue that the other counties have, and the fact that Clackamas County has no local funding at all, no gas tax, no local property tax that's directed toward roads, no vehicle registration fee. So this is maybe the fact that the dollar amount doesn't seem as significant as we'd like, but it's because it's only the first step of even making direction. And I read a lot of citizen complaints about the condition of roads and wondering why isn't the county fixing them. But if the county has no source of revenue, they're not going to fix roads without any revenue to do it. So I can see why the county wants to go this way. I think it was put to the voters a couple of years ago, as I recall, and the voters turned it down, and the county said, well, we can do it ourselves. We can just enact that, and that's what they're hoping to do here.
But, no. I don't
I have, my name is Claire Coy, and I'm a citizen of Gladstone, and I am not supportive of that.
Can we do public? Hold on just a minute. Can we do
They
public?
just need to come up
for
and
call.
Yeah.
You don't have to take testimony, but certainly can.
Go ahead.
I would say let's go ahead and have some folks talk on the subject for a moment, because I don't think we're necessarily down the road where we want to be, pardon the pun. So.
All right, Mr. Osborne, you want to come forward, please, and state your name?
Bill Osborne. Just to clarify on the gas tax that they proposed 6 cents a gallon, which was the largest gas tax that was or would have been in use at the time, with the exception of Portland, who had just voted themselves in a 10 cent per gallon. So most of the counties are 2 and 3 cents. Clackamas County kind of wanted to get in big time and went to 6 cents, and that's part of why it was voted down. As far as this, there are issues with the roads, and the roads do need to be repaired. However, adding what essentially is $60 into renewing your registration that's already $12 plus a $21 DEQ fee pushes it up there quite a bit, when 15 to 18 years ago to buy a car, transfer the title, and get 2 years of tags was $30. I think something like this should be decided by the voters. I think it's a democracy. The people should have their say. If the county believes they're representing the people, then the people will vote it in. And if the people vote it down, obviously they've spoken that the county, in wanting to enact this, is not representing the people. So I would hope that the council here would vote to send it to the people, because ultimately I think all elected officials are accountable to the people, and I think it's just a little bit too ambitious for the county to jump into. Again, kind of like their gas tax. It's just going to push things up and hurt people who are already hurting. We do need to fix our roads, but we need to find some more creative ways other than squeezing the people more. So that's my input. Thank you.
Claire, would you like to come forward, please? State your name.
My name is Claire Coy,
Okay.
and just like what Bill was saying, we already pay really high everything here in Gladstone because we're small and there's not a lot of places to pull that money from, and so our taxes are pretty high and families are pretty pinched, and that fee is not something I would be supportive of, and I think that the people should vote on it. This is a small crowd, but I think that Gladstone needs to vote on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, come forward. Yes. And state your name, please.
Hi,
Hi.
Carissa Phillips. We've lived in Gladstone for about a little over a year now, my husband and I. And I kind of resonate with the other two as far as this really should go to the citizens to vote on. And one thing that Councilmember Reisner mentioned, or McMahon, sorry, is that really I feel like it's kind of disproportionate when you're just putting on a vehicle tax when we do have other people that are using the roadways. And so that's really why we need to be sending this out to the public to be voting on, because it's a disproportionate fee to just drivers. We have bicyclists, we have, students who are using the roadways all the time. And if it's going to be just sent to the people who have vehicles, I feel like that's really disproportionate and not a good representation. So I also would hope that vote would go to the public.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come forward, please. State your name.
My name is Steve Stewart. Some of you guys recognize me from the school board as well. So, Joseph McMahon, stated, he's there to do stuff. We put him in place. I agree with you guys on that, but also, we see people moving out of Clackamas County, and they're moving farther and farther south to get away from Metro because of the added expenses. Another $60 every 2 years is another. It doesn't seem like it's much here. It's kind of like the frog in the water, right? The boiling water. You just turn it up just a little bit, 30 cents here, $30 here, $40 there. After a while, you are talking about something that really breaks the budget. So I agree with everybody else that's spoken so far that this is should be put to the voters. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion with the council?
I will say one thing. I think that when you're initiating a gas tax, it really becomes a user fee, consumer fee. When I read this, it's a 30% jump. I don't know that that's necessary. 30% jump on the registration cost. I don't know that. Clackamas County as a whole may be gaining something, but I'm not going to say that I agree that Gladstone is gaining much from a 30% registration fee jump. If you're paying a gas tax, you're paying for the use and for the consumer fee. And I think it's really sad to look to Councilor Milch's point, to see these other counties having had instituted these fees and taxes to be able to do R&R on their infrastructure when Clackamas County didn't do anything at all. That's a head scratcher. And so, to me, I just don't understand exactly where the thinking was there, because this is a rural county with lots of roads,
Right.
but we have plenty of cities that, you know, could capitalize on this as well.
Right. With a lot, though, like
But it is.
like our predecessors that didn't, you know, increase utility,
Water
water
and
and
Water and
sewer
sewer,
over the
yeah.
last 15, 20 years.
I also,
I'm just
no,
saying that's a
absolutely,
comparison.
and I think I agree with you, but I also have heard over and over this evening about the struggles of folks, and when you look at the national picture, we have the most robust economy we've ever had historically, and I'm trying to put these two together to understand where the real pressures are and the compression and the impacts are in this particular county, and apparently in this very city. Because it doesn't play well in parallel to the national economic figures. So maybe we need to take a real look at everything. I mean, not just the $30 to register your car, but it sounds to me like we have some issues here.
Clackamas County needs to step up to the plate more and do some other things.
By the way, third wealthiest county, I believe, in the state, if not number one.
Clackamas County?
Yes.
I know.
Per capita wealth.
Should we
Gladstone
take a roll call vote?
Is the second lowest in the state.
And I'm going to go out on the limb and say this seems to be a city problem, and it originally probably was a county issue that should have been addressed at the county level. That's what I feel.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
Right.
that
Yeah.
And
I'm not disagreeing with
that, too.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, Counselor.
lowest.
I'll say one more thing. I was persuaded by the argument that this does focus on vehicle drivers only, and that the roads are used by a lot more than just owners of individual cars. So that persuades me that this may not be the best approach to take. And I'm also concerned that I had a second point too, and now it's slipped my mind. But all right. But I would recommend not taking action on this at this time.
Shall we take a roll call vote?
Did you want a motion?
Do nothing.
Or just a...
We could just
let it die.
Just let it die, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I kind of agree with everybody in the audience. I think it needs to go to the voters. All right.
Good.
Dead. Move to number 10, Resolution 1148, Budget Resolution to increase revenue for financing the Gladstone Civic Center.
Thank you, and you have your interim finance director, Kathy Brucker, here to go through what you are approving.
Good evening. This is kind of the final step for everything that we've been doing as far as getting the financing and the budget in line and together for the Civic Center construction. So when the City Council made adjustment to the biennial budget in June 2018, you may recall me stating at that time that we would be back with further adjustments for the Civic Center project and the Urban Renewal Agency once the financing was completed. With that closing in July 2018, we're now ready to structure the 2017-2019 biennium budget to clearly reflect the costs of the project and the source of all the resources. When the 2017-19 budget was adopted, the Civic Center Capital Fund was estimated at that time at $10.2 million to complete the construction portion of the project. The budget for the balance of the project is now estimated at $13.3 million, plus the debt issuance costs of approximately $128,000 there. This resolution that you're looking at tonight, in fact, I'm kind of covering both the resolutions somewhat, is permitted by Oregon budget law to allow the use of the new funding through the financing, and this will accomplish 4 steps. In the general fund, it reflects the full faith and credit financing incurred by the general fund and appropriates the transfer of that funding over to the Urban Renewal Agency. Basically, the general fund is loaning that money to the Urban Renewal Agency, as you know. In the Urban Renewal Agency, we're reflecting the Urban Renewal Note financing incurred by the Urban Renewal Agency, the transfer of the funding coming in from the general fund, and then appropriating the transfer of all necessary funds over to the Civic Center Fund. This is the beauty of fund accounting that governments have to follow, that you have to go through all of these steps. In the Civic Center Capital Fund, we're reflecting the funding coming into the Civic Center project from urban renewal and set up the spending in the same format as the project manager is utilizing to track the construction costs. And then the final step is, finally, the debt service payments needed to be appropriated into the general fund and urban renewal agency for the interest payments that will be due in February 2019 from the money that we borrowed. The general fund payment will be funded by a transfer of cash from the urban renewal agency. So we'll be completing the adjustments to the urban renewal district with the discussion and recommended approval of resolution number UR68 later on during the agency meeting. The city attorney has reviewed both of the resolutions for compliance with ORS 294.338, and the flow of transactions has also been reviewed by the city audit firm Marina and Company. If approved, the City Council will see a cleaner, more comprehensive report each month detailing the construction costs associated with these new civic buildings. So are there any questions I could answer about that?
Councilor Bush, do you have any questions?
No, I think it's important to clarify this is not, these are expenditures that we've already approved, these amounts. It's not, we're not adding to the budget of something that we did a while back, but we're adding more detail to our budget document, so rather than just saying we know we're going to spend X amount total dollars, now we're getting the detail and the breakdown that was absent from the budget before.
We're getting the detail and the breakdown, but we are also appropriating the new dollars that were brought in from the financing, because we incurred more debt than was originally placed in the budget to start with.
But because of the loans we've obtained, we're actually getting more money.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's the reason for this $6 million increase.
Right. With budget, with governmental accounting and in the budget, you always have to bring in the resources and the appropriations. You can never bring in more appropriations if you don't have the money brought in to cover it. Right.
And this is due to the Oregon budgeting law.
Yeah.
That when you get more money, you have to add it to the budget.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Yep.
Any other?
I have.
Go ahead.
I have one. Ms. Brucker, on the cost impact for the original resolution, you get a $6,131,000 number on the urban renewal. You had $68 million, or 68 now.
64.
Let me back up. $6,800,000. I was confused a little bit by how these two budgets are aligned. So could you clarify for me? Because I didn't. It almost looked like those numbers were. How do I put this? So I wasn't sure if we were looking at the same budget and then the increase based on the...
It does look like there's a duplication.
That's $700,000?
Yes, and what it is the transfers going back and forth.
Okay.
We're putting all of the, borrowing it in the general, moving it to urban renewals, and we're taking it out of urban renewal, going back to the civic center.
So that would account for...
So it does end up inflating...
$600,000 and some change?
Yes.
Okay, I just...
Yes.
When I saw the two numbers and they were different, it's like, wait a second, I need to get the line there, so...
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? We have a motion?
Yeah, Councilman East, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 1148 of the City of Gladstone, Oregon, adopting a budget resolution for the biennium years 2017 to 2019.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We will move to item 10A, and that is the application for appointment to the library board.
So I believe on your dais, as I mentioned earlier, you have an application from Joe E. Libby Spencer that the library board approved the application, and they would like you to approve it tonight so that she can start her duties on the library board.
Is Libby here by any chance?
No.
Okay.
No, but she, if I may, She's been active in the community for years, was on the school board in the past,
Okay.
and has been a big supporter of, like I said, not only the community, but the library, and I think would be a great asset. And I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Libby Spencer to the library board.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I'm
sorry.
a question. This is to fill out an unexpired term that there's still a couple of years left, because I think she's replacing somebody that we just appointed about a year or two
Yes.
ago.
Yes.
December 31st, 2020 is the expiration.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
2020,
That's
wow.
okay, that's all right. Any
It's
further
almost there.
discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
She's now she's on your board. All right. Now we will adjourn to the Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right.
Just a voice vote on that.
I'm sorry.
Just a voice vote on that motion.
A voice? Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Jackie?
So now you did hear a brief staff report, but Kathy's going to have, well, actually you need to approve the June 26th meeting minutes first for the urban renewal. That's the last time they met. So just a motion approval and acceptance.
I move approval of the June 26th meeting minutes of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion? Motion carries.
Okay, Ms. Brucker will go with the next resolution.
So basically, it's just a continuation of what we just recently discussed. This is with UR 68 in order to formalize it on the Urban Renewal Agency side. This is also reorganizing the organizational unit categories a little bit, that completing out what we did in June. This will recognize an increase to the budget of $6.8 million, recognizing the debt proceeds that were incurred by the Urban Renewal Agency, and then recognizing the transfer coming in from the general fund. And then money is going back out over to the Civic Center Fund for construction, and back to the general fund eventually for debt service payment that will be due.
I want to stop you just for a second. I want to make sure I heard you correctly, because I thought I heard you say UR 68, and I want to make sure it was UR 67.
No, 68. So
It's 68 on here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
67 was the other day.
67
Okay.
was our previous one that we had done.
All right.
So, any...
That was what we did at the previous meeting,
Yeah.
so we're up to 68 now.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
catch.
So, are there any questions about this one?
Any discussion?
No, the numbers worked out, so.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to accept this?
Yes, I'd love to make a motion to approve resolution number UR 68 of the Gladstone Urban Renewal District adopting a budget resolution for the biennium years 2017-2019.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion? Motion carries.
Thank you, Kathy.
I need a motion to take us out of our urban renewal and back to...
I move we adjourn the urban renewal meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Approval of June 26th, 2018.
Down.
Oh,
Keep
and-
going down.
Oh, down here, I'm sorry. Reconvene, business carried forward.
You're doing great. I'm going to ask the city recorder if we have permission to reveal the news you just provided. We have a new baby in the family. Haley just had her baby, and she had a baby girl.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Skylar Madison Kratz was born at 5:20 p.m. tonight.
Wow. Yes. Congratulations.
I don't know. We all did a little pool on that, but I know that she was about 9 days over. Yeah, so she was ready. Other than that, I have nothing else tonight. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to business from the council. start with Tom Mercereau.
None for me.
Councilor McMahon.
Just a quick comment, I guess, as far as beating up on people that work for Metro or other Portland creep things, I'd have to say that we have a counselor that lived in Portland and probably sold his house for a very tidy profit and moved to Gladstone. Matt works for Metro, but he works out here in Clackamas County. Linda, I'm not sure what Portland things you had. Tammy, I'm sure a lot of her business dealings have to do with City of Portland residents or City of Portland itself. Neil works in Washington County. The City of Portland employs me and pays me a very good wage to live here. Tom, he's just retired. But, I mean, picking on Portland, if Portland wasn't there, we wouldn't be here. They are a pretty big hub of where we get a lot of money. So to pick on others just because they work for Metro or work for the City of Portland or wherever is just, it's asinine, to be honest, because that's the money I get that I pay my property taxes as well here in the City of Gladstone, and my vehicle taxes and all my other taxes. So to pick on us just because we work somewhere else is just wrong, because that's where we have to work. I can't work here at the City of Gladstone. There's only 50 jobs here, so it's not realistic for everybody to work in the same city that we live in. So that's what I have on that.
Thank you. Councilor Meisner?
Yeah. Last month, talking about some more library, thank you for getting Libby on the board. Myself and Councilor Neese were appointed to the Citizens, I don't know, it's got its name, selection committee that is supposedly meeting sometime this month. I haven't heard, but what I would like to do, if there's no objection, is if perchance, as you mentioned, I work over in Washington County.
You do, right?
For Beaverton School District, I teach. So I wouldn't be able to get away if those meetings are during the day. So I'd asked Councilor Milch to step in for me, if need be. And so if there's no objection from you guys, I'd like to do that. Also, too, speaking of a lot of things that we're going to be doing here in the near future. Well, we just voted millions of dollars for getting a new building going and stuff. Is also working with the county to combine the library services for Oak Lodge and Gladstone, which with the target date of July 1st of next year. And so we need to keep that in mind and support our employees in that transition, because there's got to be a lot of anxiety in that. And that's all I have. Just and have a great Halloween coming up in a few weeks. Be safe. Thank you.
Councilor Milch?
I did remember what I was going to say before about the vehicle tax. It's sort of a regressive form of taxation. Every vehicle pays the same amount. So the huge heavy pickup truck that has studded tires, it's really damaging the roads, pays the same $30 as the person who responsibly drives a car, maybe only a few miles a week. So that's one of the weaknesses, so that's another good reason to oppose it. A gas tax, at least, is paid more by the people who drive more, which ought to be the way that we fund the things we use. Those who use it the most should pay the most to maintain it. But I know the voters don't want to add any taxes, and so one way may be better than another, but none of them is preferable to everyone. Nothing else. We have school board meets tomorrow night, and I will be in turn attending their meeting and look forward to seeing what's going on there.
Councilor Milch?
Tracy. Sometimes I forget too.
Well,
so this last weekend I got the opportunity to go with the Clackamas River water providers and do a float, and did the upper portion of the float from Carver Riverside. It was very insightful. We had about 51 folks on there, citizens, council members from other cities. Kim Swan was our guide. We met some folks from West on the coming down the river to view like the Clark Creek restoration projects and some other projects up there. And one of the things that's happening is we're trying to really, Columbia River water providers they're trying to really educate folks about the river. This river is our drinking water source as well as a number of other cities. Happy Valley, Oak Lodge, Oregon City has some draw rights on it. This river is highly stressed upstream, and so just getting on the river and getting to see it helps me and enhances my knowledge as I serve on the North Clackamas County Water Commission. We own a treatment plant. For those of you that don't know, we're co-owners of a treatment plant. We own a percentage share of a treatment plant, and it's pretty amazing to realize that a lot of people really rely on this river, and it's not necessarily taken care of unless these folks are out there doing what they're doing with regards to riparian health stewardship. So, real eye-opener for me. I know plenty of people probably have floated it numerous times, but when you're looking at it kind of not through the lens of a beer can or beer bottle, which I don't know about that, but I mean, if you're looking at it a little closer, it's amazing to see just the wildlife and how the interurban environment works in conjunction with the natural environment. But it is stressed, and it is there are concerns. But a wonderful opportunity, and I do appreciate Kim Swan for giving me the opportunity.
Great. This last month with Clackamas County Business Alliance, myself, Councilor Mercereau, and City Administrator Betts, we attended the Mayor's Forum at the Oregon Golf Club over in Westland, and all of the mayors came together, and it was a great opportunity to learn and listen to what other cities are doing. And so that's all I have. Anything else?
Wasn't moved to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjournment.
Thanks.